While Tom Cruise has undoubtedly secured his place in Hollywood history with an impressive list of action-packed blockbusters and critically acclaimed performances, the complexities of his personal life have often overshadowed his professional
achievements. This duality of a man hailed for his cinematic brilliance but scrutinized for his off-screen associations has created an enigmatic public persona that continues to intrigue audiences worldwide. His enduring success, characterized by daring stunts, methodical preparation, and unwavering commitment to every project, is mirrored by a personal life marked by dramatic turns, unexpected rifts, and emotional upheavals. The reported fallout with Russell Crowe during the production of The Mummy is emblematic of the broader narrative surrounding Cruise's personal and professional relationships. Both Cruise and Crowe are dominant figures in the film industry, but their collaboration proved to be combustible. While The Mummy was intended to launch Universal's ambitious dark universe, behind-the-scenes tensions derailed more than just that vision. Cruise's influence on set was reportedly so significant that he had the final say on nearly all creative decisions, including script revisions and scene structures. Crowe, cast as Dr. Henry Jekyll, expected a collaborative environment, but insiders claimed he felt increasingly sidelined. He had imagined a deeper, more nuanced character arc, but the film's focus remained firmly on Cruise's character. The clash between the two men reportedly became so intense that communication broke down entirely by the film's final weeks of production. Crowe's later cryptic comments in interviews suggested lingering resentment and a sense of betrayal, implying that Cruise's need for control left little space for mutual respect or creative freedom. Cruise's interpersonal challenges are perhaps most painfully illustrated by the dissolution of his marriages. His relationship with Nicole Kidman was once a symbol of star-studded romance, but beneath the glamour, deeper issues brewed. Kidman's discomfort with Scientology grew over time, especially as her professional life flourished and she began to assert more independence. Scientology's reported influence on Cruise's decisions became an invisible third party in their marriage. Allegedly, the church played an integral role in advising Cruise on his personal relationships, particularly those perceived to jeopardize his commitment to the organization. After the divorce, Kidman was reportedly distanced from their adopted children Isabella and Connor, who remained closely aligned with Cruise and the church. Kidman has spoken about this estrangement with poise, often refraining from naming Scientology directly, but the implications have been unmistakable. Cruise's subsequent relationship with Penelope Cruz brought a brief reprieve from public scrutiny, but it too was marred by the same underlying issues. Cruise, though enamored with Cruz initially, reportedly struggled with the pervasive presence of Scientology in his life. While they remained together for several years, sources close to the couple suggested that religion was a recurring source of discord. Their separation in 2004 was quiet but final, and neither has spoken in depth about their breakup, lending it an air of unresolved mystery. Perhaps the most dramatic chapter came with Cruise's whirlwind romance and marriage to Katie Holmes. The couple's courtship became a media spectacle, particularly after Cruise's infamous couch-jumping appearance on The Oprah Winfrey Show in 2005, where he declared his love for Holmes. Their wedding in a lavish Scientology ceremony at an Italian castle in 2006 was attended by A-list celebrities and church officials alike. Despite the grandiosity, rumors of Holmes' unease surfaced quickly. She became increasingly isolated, and whispers about strict rules, surveillance, and church-imposed boundaries began to circulate. When Holmes filed for divorce in 2012, she did so in secret, reportedly using burner phones and strategic legal planning to secure custody of their daughter, Suri. The divorce settlement was swift, but the aftermath was revealing. Holmes was granted primary custody, and Cruise has been notably absent from Suri's public life ever since. Reports indicated that Scientology's policies on disconnection may have influenced this estrangement, though Cruise has never publicly acknowledged it. Throughout these tumultuous relationships, Cruise has maintained a steadfast public image of dedication and discipline. Yet those closest to him often recount a more complex figure, a man torn between his devotion to his craft, his beliefs, and his interpersonal bonds. The intersection of personal identity, religious conviction, and professional ambition has created both a formidable actor and a controversial figure whose life story continues to generate debate, fascination, and a fair share of speculation. The casting of Tom Cruise and Russell Crowe together in The Mummy was initially touted as a major coup for Universal Studios' ambitious Dark Universe franchise. On paper, it was a pairing of two titanic talents, both Oscar-winning or nominated, both possessing immense global star power. But behind the scenes, the collaboration was fraught with emotional undertones and unresolved personal history that created a fragile and tense working environment. Insiders familiar with the situation noted that the animosity between the two stars was never overtly hostile, but rather quietly simmering, with a palpable sense of distrust and emotional distance that lingered just beneath the surface. The tension was not only professional but deeply personal, rooted in events that had transpired over a decade earlier, specifically Cruise's sudden and devastating divorce from Nicole Kidman. Russell Crowe had been one of Nicole's closest confidants. During her breakup with Cruise, their friendship, forged through years of shared experience as Australian actors navigating the harsh terrain of Hollywood, deepened during the painful aftermath of her split. Kidman, blindsided by Cruise's decision to file for divorce, leaned on Crowe for both emotional and moral support. In those moments, Crowe became more than just a friend. He was a steady and fiercely loyal presence during one of the most vulnerable periods of her life. It was this loyalty that made his later decision to work with Cruise so controversial and emotionally charged. When Crowe agreed to sign on for The Mummy, many close to Nicole saw it as a betrayal, including Nicole herself, who reportedly felt gutted by the news. Though Crowe tried to frame his involvement in the project as purely professional, the emotional undercurrents were undeniable. Nicole allegedly contacted him directly to express her hurt, emphasizing how much his support had meant to her and how she felt his new alliance with Cruise seemed to negate that loyalty. Crowe's response was measured but firm. He acknowledged her pain but reminded her that his decision was based on career momentum, not personal allegiance. According to those familiar with the exchange, Crowe expressed his hope that Nicole could find closure and move beyond the past, urging her not to interpret his choice as a personal affront. On the film's set, this emotional backdrop made itself known in subtle but unmistakable ways. The actors kept their interactions minimal, sticking to script and schedule without any of the easy rapport often seen between longtime industry veterans. There were no shared lunches, no off-camera bonding moments, and no social outings that included both stars. Their scenes were shot with meticulous attention to detail, but those present noticed a noticeable absence of warmth or collaborative energy. Crew members commented that the set had an icy undertone whenever the two were filming together, and that both men seemed eager to complete their scenes and retreat to their own corners. While Crowe publicly downplayed any animosity in interviews, calling Cruise a consummate professional, his carefully chosen words did little to dispel the belief that deeper tensions existed. Behind the platitudes, his body language and pointed remarks about creative differences painted a more complex picture. Similarly, Cruise maintained his usual diplomatic stance, offering no public commentary on his relationship with Crowe or the behind-the-scenes dynamics. Yet his history of controlling creative output, including being heavily involved in the film's final cut, only reinforced the perception that Crowe may have felt artistically stifled during the production. The aftermath of The Mummy, a critical and commercial disappointment, only added salt to the wound. For Crowe, the professional payoff had not matched the emotional toll, and for Kidman, the incident may have marked a final chapter in a painful personal saga. The situation underscored a recurring theme in Cruise's relationships, both personal and professional, a charismatic and driven public persona that often masked the complex, sometimes isolating reality of being in his orbit. Despite the glowing sound bites and seemingly good-humored interactions captured in behind-the-scenes footage, the reality of Tom Cruise and Russell Crowe's collaboration on The Mummy was far more complicated than it appeared, as much as both men publicly lauded each other. The actual process of making the film revealed fundamental differences in creative philosophy and working style that led to a growing sense of disillusionment, particularly on Crowe's side. Cruise's role as the film's star was only one part of his influence. He was also an executive producer and wielded sweeping authority over nearly every aspect of production. According to insiders, this control extended far beyond what would typically be expected of a lead actor, encompassing not just his own scenes but influencing the way the entire film was structured, shot, and marketed. Crew members and secondary cast alike described the atmosphere as one of carefully managed chaos, where decisions were often bottlenecked through Cruise and his tight-knit team. Directors and writers found themselves answering more to Cruise than to the studio or their own instincts. While some respected Cruise's meticulous attention to detail and undeniable drive, others, including Crowe, reportedly found it stifling. Crowe, who had grown used to more collaborative and egalitarian working environments, clashed with this rigid system. While he never erupted publicly or staged dramatic walkouts, those on set noticed his growing frustration, particularly when scenes were rewritten or re-edited in ways that diminished his role or shifted the narrative's focus more heavily onto Cruise's character. One source close to the production noted that Crowe had originally signed on to play Dr. Jekyll, with the understanding that the character would be a cornerstone of the larger universe, perhaps even earning his own spin-off. But as filming progressed, it became clear that Cruise's character, Nick Morton, would be the primary focus, and that other characters, including Crowe's, were being reshaped to support that narrative. This wasn't unusual for a film led by a star of Cruise's caliber, but Crowe's expectations had been higher, particularly given the way the project had been pitched to him. Furthermore, there was a distinct lack of spontaneity on set. Cruise's well-documented commitment to precision and control left little room for improvisation, something Crowe had always valued. Though both men are known for being intense professionals, their energies clashed in subtle but consistent ways. Their fight scenes, while physically engaging and outwardly friendly, reportedly carried an underlying tension, a competitive edge that bordered on passive aggression. Even between takes, Crowe seemed more reserved than usual, rarely engaging in the playful banter that marked his earlier projects. It was clear to some observers that he was trying to maintain professionalism while quietly withdrawing from any deeper personal connection. This sense of emotional distance only deepened during the film's post-production and marketing phases. Cruise's team took the lead in shaping the promotional narrative, and Crowe's involvement in press junkets was significantly limited. Media appearances were done separately, interviews carefully edited, and even at red carpet events, the two stars were rarely photographed together for more than a brief moment. Fans picked up on the awkwardness, and despite their polite public personas, the chemistry felt forced. The excitement that had once surrounded their long-awaited collaboration now felt like a missed opportunity, a partnership burdened by ego, emotional baggage, and conflicting visions. The film's reception did little to salvage the situation. While it brought in over $400 million globally, its bloated budget and lack of critical acclaim turned it into a cautionary tale rather than the triumphant beginning of a franchise. For Universal, it was the end of the dark universe. For Cruise, it was another reminder of the risks involved in taking too much creative control. And for Crowe, it marked the closure of a personal and professional chapter he had once looked forward to, but ultimately found emotionally draining. Though the two actors have not worked together since, the echoes of their collaboration continue to resonate as an example of how even the biggest stars, when burdened by history and divergent visions, can falter under the weight of expectation. As the dust settled around The Mummy, stories continued to circulate about the reality of Tom Cruise and Russell Crowe's time on set, and how what started as a promising collaboration gradually unraveled into a strained and emotionally taxing experience. Sources close to the production confirmed that Russell Crowe's initial excitement about playing Dr. Henry Jekyll began to fade as he realized just how peripheral his character had become in the final version of the film. He had signed on under the impression that his role would serve as the backbone for the entire dark universe, an anchor character much like Nick Fury in Marvel's cinematic universe. But as the script evolved and Cruise's influence became more pronounced, Crowe's role was scaled back, reduced to exposition-heavy scenes that seemed shoehorned in to tease future installments that would never come to pass. Crowe was used to having a central presence in his films and wasn't comfortable being relegated to what he reportedly described as decorative connective tissue. The feeling of being sidelined, combined with Cruise's tight grip over the production, created a tense atmosphere behind the scenes. Crew members often observed the two actors engaging in hushed, tense conversations between takes. While the public image projected was one of mutual admiration, the reality was more complex. Crowe began to see Cruise less as a collaborator and more as a dominating force whose obsession with perfection and control left little room for creative give and take. Even routine discussions about blocking and delivery became points of contention. As Cruise's team often overruled or adjusted plans without warning, the intense fight scene between their characters became emblematic of the broader dynamic between them. What was meant to be a memorable physical showdown turned into a metaphorical battleground, where both actors channeled real frustration into their performances. The 4-day shoot was physically grueling, as neither Cruise nor Crowe used stunt doubles and insisted on performing every throw, punch, and impact themselves. According to insiders, the atmosphere during filming those scenes was unusually charged, bordering on volatile. One crew member even described the tension as palpable, noting that both actors were taking the hits a little harder than necessary. The sequence, which involved smashing through furniture, crashing into walls, and leaving the set in shambles, was applauded for its visceral intensity. But to those on set, it felt more like a form of controlled combat than a choreographed fight. Behind-the-scenes footage shared by Cruise was meant to drum up excitement for the film, but instead it raised eyebrows. Fans who saw the teaser were confused by the apparent hostility between two characters who were supposed to be allies. The questions spilled over into the media. Was this just good acting, or was it a reflection of something deeper and more personal? Between the stars? Once. The Mummy premiered and failed to meet expectations, both critically and financially. The whispers turned into louder speculation. The highly publicized plans for a sprawling franchise were quietly shelved, and with them, the prospect of Cruise and Crowe ever reuniting on screen all but disappeared. In the aftermath, both actors retreated from any further discussion about the film or their working relationship. Neither has publicly criticized the other, but their silence has spoken volumes. Industry insiders note that while Cruise continues to dominate in action blockbusters and Crowe explores more diverse, character-driven roles, the likelihood of another collaboration is extremely low. The experience seemed to leave both men emotionally drained, and any excitement that once surrounded their partnership has long since faded into a footnote of what could have been. The Mummy's failure wasn't just the collapse of a cinematic universe, it was also the end of a potential creative alliance, undone by ego, misaligned expectations, and the burden of unresolved personal histories. As rumors swirled around Tom Cruise and his deep ties to the Church of Scientology, it was perhaps inevitable that his close working relationship with Russell Crowe would become a focal point for public curiosity. Many speculated that Cruise had attempted to draw Crowe into the church, especially given how the church has been known to seek high-profile recruits to bolster its public image. These suspicions intensified after news broke of Cruise and Crowe's collaboration on The Mummy, and social media was quick to theorize that the film set may have doubled as a recruitment opportunity. However, Russell Crowe's candidness in an interview with People magazine helped diffuse much of the speculation. He explained that his interest in religion had always been broad and academic rather than dogmatic, and that his curiosity about Scientology stemmed more from a desire to understand what his friend believed than any intention of joining the church. Himself, Crowe recalled renting a documentary on Scientology after reading about it in the media and bringing up a few questions during a casual conversation with Cruise. Far from launching into a recruitment pitch, Cruise simply acknowledged Crowe's curiosity and encouraged him to explore it on his own terms if he wanted to learn more. Crowe was quick to clarify that Tom had never pressured him or made him feel uncomfortable about the topic. He joked, "He didn't try to sell me a pair of shoes," a line that was widely quoted and helped to inject some levity into an otherwise sensitive subject. Crowe's remarks were direct, grounded, and free of the evasiveness that often accompanies celebrity statements about Scientology, and this approach went a long way toward quelling persistent rumors. He confirmed that he had never visited a Scientology center and had no intention of doing so, making it clear that his spiritual explorations had always been on his own terms. Still, the broader narrative about Tom Cruise's entanglement with Scientology continued to spark concern and intrigue. Former high-ranking Scientologist Mike Rinder's memoir added fuel to the fire when he alleged that the church played an active role in the breakdown of Crowe's marriage to Nicole Kidman. According to Rinder, church leadership viewed Nicole as a negative influence who was pulling Crowe away from the faith. He claimed that senior members of the church deliberately created tension in the marriage, allegedly even assigning individuals to manipulate Nicole toward agreeing to a divorce. While these claims have never been substantiated in court, and the Church of Scientology has vigorously denied them, Rinder's insider perspective gave weight to public suspicions. The church responded swiftly, labeling his statements as false and defamatory and asserting that Rinder had an agenda against them. Despite the denials, the stories continued to resonate in public discourse. Crowe's steadfast devotion to Scientology, combined with the dramatic dissolution of his marriage to Kidman and the strained relationships that followed, reinforced the perception of a faith that wielded considerable influence over its most famous adherent. In contrast, Russell Crowe's straightforward, unflustered handling of the topic served as a counterpoint. He positioned himself as someone who asked questions out of genuine curiosity, but never got drawn into the church's sphere. His remarks demonstrated that not every conversation about Scientology in Hollywood leads to conversion or controversy. For many observers, Crowe's openness helped humanize both him and the situation, illustrating that curiosity doesn't necessarily equate to vulnerability or submission. Ultimately, while Scientology remains a polarizing topic in the entertainment world, Russell Crowe managed to navigate his proximity to it with a rare mix of honesty and composure, preserving his integrity and reaffirming that his relationship with Crowe had boundaries that even the church could not cross.